Views and opinions expressed in this production are those of the individual and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Shooters Nation or our sponsors. Information provided on this show is not a replacement for legal counsel or professional training. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on live shows.
Welcome to the Shooters Nation podcast, the talk show for you, the armed citizen. Join us as we discuss guns and gear, training, mindset and knowledge, industry news and buzz, and of course, the firearms culture. Be sure to join us after the show at shootersnation.com and become part of the Shooters Nation.
Hey folks, welcome to another edition of the Shooters Nation podcast. I'm your host, David Yancey, and this is episode number 6. This is a special episode, and I'm actually recording this introduction several days after we completed recording the session that you're about to hear. The reason this episode is so special is because it's part 1 of our series with our guest subject matter expert, Mike Sisno, on the AR15, why you really do need one. When Mike, Mark, and I recorded this interview, we knew right away that the conversation was bigger than we could fit into an hour and do the subject any justice. In fact, we started as we normally do around 9 p.m. and didn't finish recording until 1 o'clock the next morning. This is a very timely and energizing conversation, and honestly, none of us were anxious to cut it short. We've been asking you, our audience, to tell us what you want in a podcast, and a common request has been that we would try to limit episodes to between 60 and 90 minutes in length. Well, we've heard you, and that's exactly what we're going to try to do starting with this one now. We will release the second part of this episode next week and hope that you will join us again as we continue to dig through the hot button topic of the AR-15 and its practicality for the average citizen. With that, I hope that you'll enjoy the show. Co-hosting with me tonight is the one and only Muddy Mark Lancaster, owner and proprietor of Squared Away Customs. Mark, our listeners probably don't know that not only is Squared Away Customs the builder of quality Kydex holsters and concealment gear, but that you guys are on the leading edge of pioneering new holster designs made entirely from New Hampshire mud.
How are you guys?
You guys have completely traded snow for mud. That is
totally. It's brutal.
like the most tragic thing. Do you guys like go make mud snowmen or anything?
I try to just not to go outside. The dogs, and it's just horrible.
That's fun. All right. Well, so we've got another fantastic episode for the listeners, and one that I think is actually going to be pretty timely. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the AR-15 and why you really do need one as a civilian. And helping us with that discussion is a special guest that we've been wanting to get on the show now for a while, our friend Mike Sisno. So Mike, your ears may have been burning for the past 5 episodes, but you're finally here. Welcome to the show.
Howdy, everybody. How y'all doing?
Mike, some of our listeners might have already had the pleasure of training with you, and I know that Mark and a lot of our mutual friends have, and I'm personally looking forward to getting that opportunity as soon as I can. But for the rest of the audience, I'm going to go into your biography for a minute and set the stage, so to speak. So are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, here we go. So, folks, Mike is a 31-year veteran of law enforcement as a state policeman. He recently retired from that life, but while he was there, he served in patrol and the Bureau of Criminal Investigation and the Governor's Security Detail and the Marine Division and on the SWAT team. And before retiring as the Patrol Division Commander, Mike served as the High Entry Risk Team Commander and was the lead firearms instructor as his state's State Police Academy, or at his state's State Police Academy. And so Mike also served on the state's Use of Force Committee, which oversaw all training concerning the use of force, firearms training, and instructor certification. During Mike's SWAT career, He was also involved in numerous missions and high-risk entries, served on protection details, including, and I love this one, including the detail to protect the President of the United States, as well as other U.S. and foreign dignitaries. Mike has also trained over 600 deploying U.S. military personnel on foreign weapons to familiarize them with those weapons for theaters of combat. He's certified as a law enforcement instructor in pistol, shotgun, and patrol rifle, which happens to include the AR-15, and is an FBI-trained handgun and shotgun firearms instructor. And last but not least, Mike now divides his time in retirement between leisure activities and continuing to deliver firearms training to civilians and law enforcement students alike. Mark, you said that you thought that would take 30 minutes. It's pretty impressive, but wait, there's more. All of that to say that, in our opinion, Mike knows a little something about firearms and knows a little something about the AR-15 and knows a little something about the civilian use of firearms for self-defense. So, with all of that being said, Mike, that's a pretty tall resume, but you're a tall guy and also pretty humble about these things, which is why I thoroughly enjoy laying the case for why folks really probably ought to turn up the volume on this podcast and lean in a little bit and listen to the things that you have to say tonight. So I hope that you made it through that with your ego not too bruised. Man, that was the abbreviated version from what I saw. So,
thank you for the kind words.
You've had an impressive career, very impressive career.
I've been very fortunate in my career to have done all the things that I did, the assignments that I had, and the training that I was able to get through my career, both through law enforcement sources and the military and the gun industry as well. So I've been lucky in many ways, and I'm very thankful for that.
Well, we're lucky to have you here tonight, Mike. And I'll be very honest and a little less campy right now when I say this. I've been fortunate through no other thing than luck of my own to share the room with some people that have had amazing careers, much like yourself. And the one trait that I've noticed between all of them, you included, is that those who you really ought to listen to and those who actually have walked the walk and done things and learned things that the rest of us could benefit from are normally the quietest. And it seems like the guys that I've heard, especially even in the training industry, that talk the loudest about themselves, probably don't have a resume half as impressive as what you have. And I really, your humility to me speaks louder than, the words themselves of what is on your resume and what all you've done. So I really do appreciate you being here with us tonight. Mark and I have talked several times about this and hope that we could get you here sooner or later. So thank you for sharing your time with us this evening. And I'll be honest with both of you guys. I think that this subject, the AR-15, especially in the current climate, I think that we've got a good chance of talking about this so much that this recording tonight may end up being split across 2 podcast episodes. And so I just want to go ahead and throw that out there, that our audience understands now going into this, that, you may be listening to part 1 now, and next week you'll listen to part 2. And I hope that you'll come back and finish up that podcast with us. So again, Mike, welcome. Glad to have you here. Thanks for having me. So Mark, I think let's go ahead and just launch right on into it, because there's a lot to talk about. And gentlemen, if I could, let's just maybe scope this down, because the AR-15, just talking about that is it's a very wide subject. But if we scope it down to civilian use, I think that it really just takes turning on the television or even browsing the internet right now, and you'll quickly realize that you can't go very far without stumbling over, I hate to use this term, but quote unquote assault rifles being brought up. And smack in the middle of that spotlight is the AR-15. And so specifically, one statement seems to keep rising to the top of the noise. And you might already know what I'm going to say here. No one needs an AR-15, right? How many times have you heard that, or how many times have you read that? Like,
it's one of the common, responses from them, because they don't have, the knowledge of even what it is really, and it's frustrating because they're oftentimes so thick about it they're not even willing to listen.
Yeah,
it's an emotional response, and it's unfortunate.
When we look at our society, we've moved away from a gun culture, and people are so far removed from it. When you look at the hunting side of things, license sales are down. There's less people in the woods, and that's just the way. When I talk to people, and they say, you don't need those kind of weapons, and my response to them is, you don't need those kind of weapons because you don't have weapons. You've never used them. You've never hunted. You don't appreciate all the facets of owning a weapon, from hunting, target shooting, and just the sheer enjoyment of competition, be it against yourself or other competitors. Mark knows a very good friend of mine, Bob B., who he was at the last class. He's an individual that loves to shoot. He enjoys it. He enjoys competing against himself to improve his skill. He would never use a weapon to defend himself or his family. We've had long discussions about that subject, and he just wouldn't do it. But he enjoys shooting his Glocks and shooting his AR-15. Loves it.
Mike, you said something that we're just on the very beginning of this conversation, and yet here we are. My mind's already racing at things and picking up on key points in our conversation. We have moved away from a gun culture in this country, and I would say that it's because, by and large, we are so fortunate as a society that, with exception for individual encounters with violence, we generally don't have much exposure to it, right? So the individual might have exposure to violence in a crime, or something along those lines, or we have our men and women of the military that have exposure to violence in other countries, but here in the United States, with rare exception, do we have a generalized exposure to violence. And so we've begun to move away from the perceived necessity of firearms, and I think a lot of people are comfortable just entrusting their protection to armed men and women who, much like yourself, have spent careers protecting the rest of us. I'm trying to think of who the author was, but there's an author that refers to the protection that we enjoy from law enforcement as being that thin veneer of civility over top of the violence that lurks beneath it. And it's what's, you guys and your brothers and sisters that wear a badge and carry a gun and enforce law and order are the one thing that stands between us and that dark undercurrent that's less civilized. And because of that, we feel very safe, and we feel like we don't need weapons, or a lot of us feel that way, it seems like. So it's an interesting point that, just occurred to me right off the bat. And it's part of the reason why maybe people do need an AR-15 or any other rifle or handgun, and they're just not thinking about that because they have no exposure, no experience.
Mark, you want to jump in there and make a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is the ignorance about it all. I think that they really don't know what they're talking about, and that's, I truly believe, 75-80% of the problem. I feel if they really knew the difference between weapon A and weapon B. The
Right.
difference between an AR-15 and a Mini 14. You look at you've seen that meme or those pictures on the internet all the time. It's like these two things shoot the same caliber at the same rate from roughly the same size magazine.
Right.
But one of them looks like granddad's old hunting rifle, the ranch rifle. And it's just as, just as powerful as a weapon. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it's like they think that these things are shooting these bullets that are the size of a finger, you know what I mean? Versus like a 22 caliber round.
Right.
Most people don't realize. And it's just unfortunate because, I mean, like at the end of the day, I think I said in the episode the other night is, I can shoot my lever action 30-30 that was, an early 1900s hunting rifle. I can shoot that dang near as fast as I can shoot an AR-15. No, it's not a semi-auto. It's a lever action cowboy's gun, So for most people that don't know the difference would look at it and think, but I can shoot it effectively at 100 yards very fast,
right.
And, I think the other thing I mentioned in the episode is that I've invited a liberal friend that's totally against the AR-15 and my silencers and everything else and quote unquote silencers, to the range with me. It's like, my plan was to pick up my old 30-30 that's beat up and loaded with patina and greasy old wood and to show him how fast and effective I can shoot that while I let him shoot my AR-15 effectively and see how we do together.
Right.
And because it's truly an ignorance problem, I believe. And if it's not, it's an agenda.
Yeah. Well, I think that you're right. Really, I think, you can take and split that other position into two lanes. One lane is the agenda, and that's probably the vocal minority that we're hearing so much about right now. We're these are the folks that are carrying the signs at the rallies saying, yes, I want all of your guns and all other manner of propaganda. But in the other lane, you have the people that just don't know. And whether ignorance or naivety or just, maybe you could even call it an innocence that they've not been exposed to these things. They don't understand. And so maybe my goal for this episode or these two episodes, if that's the way it plays out, is for us to have material that not only existing gun owners can listen to and perhaps get some information and speaking points to then take back to their, I'm going to call them the middle of the road friends that haven't quite made up their mind yet or are just not sure what they believe. And so they're open to be persuaded one way or the other. But also they could take this podcast and share it with those friends and say, hey, listen to this. These guys maybe make a compelling argument for the side that you're not quite sure about yet. So
we can educate the people that are on the fence in the middle of the road. The
right.
people that are on the other side, they have made up their minds and they aren't going to change their minds.
Sure.
The general public, and I don't mean to be disrespectful in any way, but they're trained by Hollywood and they are misinformed by a media that is being agenda driven. And some of the terms like assault rifle, there is no such thing as a assault rifle.
Right.
It's a made up term that was made up in the 80s. You can look through any military manual out there, and there absolutely is no reference to a assault rifle. But when you talk to people, that's exactly what it is.
Sure, it's a very emotional
military
thing.
grade, and all those terms that they're throwing out there, and they're just ignorant of the facts. And it's not entirely their fault. They listen to the news, they listen to whoever they listen to, and they form their opinions from that, and that's it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, no, you made a point that I'll say, devil's advocate. I'm on the other side of the argument, as you guys, and it's highly unlikely that anybody from the far left, if you will, anti-firearms establishment could even begin to persuade us to come to their side either, right? So, the people that are in the middle that haven't quite made up their minds that do vote and do contact their representatives and like us don't want to see any more school children shot or movie patrons shot in a theater or people at a nightclub shot trying to just dance and have a good time and have some drinks and enjoy themselves. They're not really sure what the solution is to that, but not having people get shot sounds really good. And so they're hearing one side of the argument right now, which is no rifles means you don't get shot. And we all, the three of us, I think, can agree that that's not true. That's not how that works. In a perfect world, perhaps, but we don't live in that perfect world. And so the way to stop violence is deterrent or use of force against violence. So,
the U.S. Marines, right, have a great phrase: improvise, adapt, and overcome. And understand that evil does the same exact thing. Australia, right, did away with firearms. Mm-hmm. There's very few that's owned by the public, and when you look at their government provided stats regarding gun violence, it's extremely low. But what they won't tell you is that the criminals there have reverted to using nail guns as weapons. You want to get shot by a bullet or you want to get shot by a nail.
Right.
Out in Houston a couple weeks ago, the bombs that were going off. In London, acid attacks, machete attacks. They improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Well, absolutely. Every time the government takes away and implement a tool, evil finds another tool to use. Home Depot trucks being run through crowds of people in New York City. I'm staring at my desk right now. I could pick up this glass that I have in my hand and I could hit somebody with that. Now that turns that into an assault glass if you follow the logic that's being used on to label the AR-15 as an assault rifle. So any object that I pick up and use to wound another person is an assault tool. So I think, Mark, was it you that said you can't legislate evil out of people's hearts?
You can. I mean, they're going to find a way one way or another. And you just said it, whether it's going to be a hammer or a knife, Home Depot truck, pressure cooker, an airplane.
Right.
If they want to, induce evil, they're going to do it. And, they're already willing to commit murder. Right. So if they're willing to break that law, what is a 30-round capacity magazine ban?
Sure. Or right. You take away the AR-15 and the scary quote unquote assault rifles, and you leave shotguns. Guess what? They're going to use a shotgun.
Oh, the Naval Yard shooting was a shotgun.
Was it? I didn't remember that.
Wasn't it, Mike? That Naval Yard shooting in what was that?
In Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia.
Yeah.
That guy had a shotgun, pistol grip pump, Mossberg 500, I think.
Yeah, that's correct. That is correct.
And they didn't go after them after that. You know what I mean? Like there was no shot. I forget how many he killed, but there was no mention of shotgun removal. Just like the handguns. They're it's like another thing I'd like to touch on, like today in Vermont with the magazine capacity, 10 rounds maximum.
Right.
I've done enough shooting with my rifles and my carbines and taken some classes and done some work under a timer actually in some of Mike's classes.
Yeah.
And, doing a 3-shot reload, 3-shot reload, 3-shot on 3 separate targets on a clock, it doesn't take very long to get very quick at that.
No,
I think I have a video of me running that drill. And I think it was like 5.49 seconds or something like that. That was 2 reloads.
Yeah.
So who cares if it's a 30-round mag or a 10-round mag? It doesn't matter if you get proficient with the weapon system. You're going to do, it's just not important.
Yeah, and it's a very small investment of time to become proficient.
Understand, guys. I've got a couple years on both of you guys, and I've been following the anti-gun movement, since the Brady days and the introduction of that group. I've seen their list of the weapons that they want to do away with, and I had a conversation the other day with a individual about the AR-15, and his position was, you don't need a weapon like that. It's military grade. He used all the buzzwords that are being thrown out at this point in time. And he said, you can keep your hunting rifles. And the reality of it is, I saw the list from the Brady campaign and the other groups out there, and Remington 742s are on that list, right? Browning, right? All semi-automatic weapons, to include shotguns and handguns. Anything that is repeatable, lever action guns, right? Pump shotguns are all on their list. That's what they're targeting. So the AR-15, in my estimation, of their movement, will be the first domino to fall, and then the others will follow. And that is what the general public does not understand. They think that it's just the AR-15. No, it's not. It's other weapons as well. And the end game is to disarm the public, as they have done in other countries around the world.
Right.
I mean, man, today, I still, it almost seems like I can't even believe what's happened in Vermont today. Vermont's, I'm 5 minutes out of Vermont. I live right on the border of New Hampshire and Vermont, and I cross state lines multiple times every day. And Vermont's always been known as, it was one of the states with no gun laws. There was nothing, no loaded rifles in a vehicle. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but that was about the only law there is regarding guns in the state of Vermont, and that was a fish and game violation. And now for Vermont to be slapped with this today, I can't believe it. And it's just the start. I feel like this is just the start. This is exactly the way, in the domino effect is about to begin, and it's scary to think about.
Mark, you're close enough to Vermont. If you look at the makeup of that legislature now, and look into their backgrounds, I think you're going to find that the bulk of them are not native Vermonters, and that's what has happened to that state. It's moved away from its traditional values, and it's moved in a different direction. And they're ill-informed, misinformed, and not really up on the facts. They don't even know the real crime statistics in their own state. And these are the people that are making these decisions and enforcing these laws, right, and pushing these laws through.
Yeah, and what they need is a voting public who will respond to the emotional and I'll say superficially logical rally cry that this is for the kids, or this is for society, that our current quote unquote civilized society doesn't need these weapons in circulation. And the reality is our society is civilized to an extent because they exist. It is a deterrent. It is a tool that law-abiding citizens have used to ensure that violence is not inflicted upon them.
All people need to do is go to the FBI website and look at the breakdown of violent crimes related to gun violence, and you will see that the use of military-style weapons to perpetrate crimes is extremely low, and that is a fact. But they don't want to look at that.
So let's maybe step back for a second And focus again on that statement that is pervasive in the news right now. No one needs an AR-15. And let's maybe start with some of the basics of that by addressing some of the common myths, misconceptions, or just outright wrong information or even lies about the AR-15, since that's kind of the darling of the media right now. And so I'm just going to kind of roll down through some things that I jotted down earlier. Common misconception: AR. AR doesn't stand for assault rifle. And frankly, like Mike, you said a moment ago, there's a very clear definition of what an actual assault rifle is, if such thing even exists, and the AR-15 doesn't even qualify. AR stands for Armalite Rifle, and Armalite is the name of the company that designed and developed the first AR, and they sold the rights to that to Colt Manufacturing back in 1959. So this sucker's been around in one form or another for almost 60 years. 60 years. And yet only in the past 10 to 15 has it really become center, or has it really gained center stage notoriety in the media. And Mike, you may want to jump in on this one and correct me if I'm wrong, but unlike the actual loose definition of assault rifle, if you're going to find it anywhere in a manual of arms or a lexicon of military rifles, assault rifle has historically been defined as meaning a rifle capable of fully automatic fire. And the AR-15 is semi-automatic only, meaning that it only fires one shot per trigger pull, just like any of countless other rifles used for hunting or target shooting, law enforcement, or personal defense. Mike, you listed off several earlier. The Remington 7400 series is a semi-automatic hunting rifle that comes with, nice, calm, safe-looking brown wood furniture, and you're going to see your grandfather or your uncle carrying that thing around during deer season. Semi-automatic actually fires a larger and more powerful bullet than the AR-15 does, and the general public might look at that and say, yeah, absolutely, you should have one of those. No, nothing wrong with that, but not the AR-15. And when you stop and look at the facts, that Remington 7400, that 30-06 deer rifle, is capable of doing a heck of a lot more damage than the AR-15 is, and yet it's just not demonized.
I'll go back to what I said before. There is no such thing as an assault rifle, according to the military and law enforcement. You will not find that term in any manual, and I've looked at them dating back to the Second World War. There is no such term. It was coined by the media in the 80s, and it stuck around. And again, that's just another misconception, that's out there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hold the thoughts that I have right now and let you continue on with your list.
Sure. Yeah. No. Well, and so you're dead right about the assault rifle, right? That's a term that it's actually starting to creep into various publications, including dictionaries. You go to Merriam-Webster, you go on the internet, dictionary.com. You just do a search for assault rifle, and there are sources of information that are fairly well regarded that a person can go to look up a term, whether it's an encyclopedia or a dictionary or something along those lines, and there it is, and it's in black and white, and it has crept into the vocabulary and it has taken on the meaning of this thing, which is exactly what the anti-firearms crowd, especially the political crowd, has wanted to happen. They've wished this thing into reality, and now it is, and now we all have to deal with it, even though we know that it's complete and utter crap, right? It's just not a real thing.
Yeah, what's the old saying, right? If you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth.
Absolutely.
You ever heard that?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and I'll say that I've called it collective resonance. That as this term continues to get bounced around in our normal everyday language, it just reinforces itself, and now people who had never even thought to question, is that even a real word? Is that a real term? They just assume that it is, and it adds this false credence to it, and it's become accepted as a truth. Like you said, you repeat a lie enough times, it becomes the truth.
I'm going to throw one thing out there for the listeners to think and ponder. I'll expand on it a little bit later, but I want them to think about this. After the Second World War, our soldiers came home and they brought home their M1 Garands and their M1 carbines. Some of them kept them, and some of them turned them in. All of those guns eventually got sold to the public. You could go to a hardware store and buy a M1 carbine for $24. M1 carbine usually came with a 15 or a 30-round magazine, and they were prolific, just all over the place by the tens of thousands. They were there.
Yeah,
we didn't have mass shootings.
Right. These are actual military firearms. If you want to get down to the brass tacks of this, if you want to talk about military grade, that was the real deal. These were brought back from war, and no one thought twice about selling them for $20 in a hardware store.
And the ammunition was 5 times more powerful.
No background check, no paperwork to fill out. You laid your money out and you walked out of the store with those weapons. Now, we didn't have mass shootings, so I want the listeners to think, what changed? And that's my question to them, to think for a little while. What changed?
Right. Can't wait to get into that.
Let's not talk about that. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I've digressed a little bit. Going back to the AR-15, it should also be noted that manufacturing of firearms for the general public has been very tightly regulated for over 80 years, and fully automatic firearms have not been available to the general public at all since the Hughes Amendment to the Firearms Owner Protection Act became law in 1986. And so if you look at the civilian AR-15, it's externally, in appearance, familiar to the military M4 rifle. But internally, it's very significantly different. The AR-15's hammer and trigger mechanisms are designed differently and specifically, along with the bolt carrier, which is the mechanism that contains the firing pin, and it's the reciprocating part of the rifle that chambers the round and fires the round and so forth, and the lower receiver, which is the part where the magazine goes into, and it's where the trigger and the pistol grip and such are. Those are machined differently so that the firing mechanism from the fully automatic military rifle can't even be used in the civilian AR-15. Frankly, to me, saying that the AR-15 is terrifying and more dangerous because of its militarized appearance is honestly just as ludicrous as saying that a guy wearing military-style cargo pants or a woman wearing the very popular Arabic-style shema scarf, the houndstooth check type scarf, that I should be scared of them and that should panic me because of the way they look. It's just as stupid as that to say that the AR-15, because it looks like a military rifle, quote unquote, should panic me and cause me to be emotional and worried about it.
Yeah, and I mean, like another one that I think that stands out is that I think there's this, I mentioned it briefly, that there's there's a common misconception that the ammo is just like ridiculously powerful, ridiculously large, and it's like this big human killing round, when most first-time shooters shoot a 22 caliber gun, typically a 22 caliber rifle. And what I think most people don't realize is an AR-15 is a 22 caliber rifle.
Right. Yeah, a lot of kids still go to summer camp and they shoot 22 rifles at summer camp. Right. The AR-15, 22 caliber diameter round, a little bit more powder behind it, a little bit more oomph, but it's still not this magical, oh my God, what was, I've heard on the news, I don't know, it was Feinstein or somebody else like that, declaring that, it's just, when it tears through the body and breaks bones and liquefies organs and opens a black hole and your whole family's sucked into it and whatever else happens, it's terrible. And it's just the most stupid thing I've ever heard. If you've ever shot one of these things, you realize very quickly that I'll back up. I've taken people shooting that have never shot a rifle before, and I'll choose the AR-15 intentionally because of the fact that it is so soft shooting, and they pull the trigger, and you just see it before their finger ever hits it. They're just braced and they're tensed and they're shaking a little bit, and they're just ready for this thing to be just to pack a wallop. And they pull the trigger and it pops, and then they look at you like, is that it? And then the light bulb clicks on. They're like, oh, it's not near as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So let's kick over into why the AR-15 is practical for the civilian. And I think we're going to get into some talks about caliber and high power and all these other buzzwords, right? So Mike and Mark, I think this is where you guys can really help our listeners either understand the AR-15 and why the law-abiding citizen really does need one. And hopefully the three of us can help the listeners better articulate why the AR-15 is practical for the law-abiding armed citizen. But I think before we get into that, just to give everybody a moment to pause for a second and lock that in their minds. If it's all right with you, gentlemen, we'll take a break, and then we'll get right back into that and dig into it deep as soon as we come back.
Sounds good.
All right.
Perfect.
Everybody, stick around. We'll be right back with you.
Hey folks, David here. I want you to think about the handgun you carry for your own protection, and I really want you to think about the holster you carry it in. Do you have trouble concealing your handgun? Does it feel like no matter what you do or how you dress, it's painfully obvious to everyone that you're carrying concealed? Well, I want to take a moment to introduce you to Squared Away Customs. Squared Away Customs is a manufacturer of custom, high-quality holsters for both concealed carry and duty carry. They provide a catalog of holster designs to choose from, and they are glad to take on custom work to design something to meet your specific needs. Mark and his team take pride in providing an excellent product at a reasonable cost. They work hard to keep delivery times short, and their number one goal is to ensure that their customers are satisfied. Squared Away Customs also offers a heroes discount to military, police, emergency medical workers, and educators. And for listeners of the Shooters Nation podcast, Mark offers a reduced pricing if you use coupon code Shooters Nation. Again, that's Shooters Nation as the coupon code. So, before you strap that cheap floppy store-bought holster on again, head over to squaredawaycustoms.com and treat yourself and your carry gun to something more worthy of the challenge.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Shooters Nation podcast. You're here with David, Mark, and Mike Sisno, and we're talking tonight about the AR-15 and the fact that yes, you do need one, and yes, it is practical for the civilian. So gentlemen, before the break, we were talking about various things, but we agreed that we would come back and just dig into the practicality of the AR-15 and the AR platform even for the civilian. And so, again, this is where I think you guys can really help our listeners understand the AR-15 and why the law-abiding citizen really does need one. And hopefully, the three of us can work through that together. And even the folks that are listening that, we don't have to convince them. They already feel that way. We can give them some facts to better articulate that when they're talking to their friends and family who are maybe on the fence. So,
absolutely.
Let's see here. I've jotted down some questions for discussion, and I'll just kind of roll through these, and let's kind of chew on these for a little bit. First question: do you own an AR-15 or some variant of that platform currently? Mark, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm trying to count. I think somewhere between 8 and 11 AR-15s of some sort, multiple different calibers. Multiple different disciplines. I have a couple of SBRs. I have a couple of pistol AR platforms. I have an 18-inch AR platform that I built.
Okay.
I have an AR-10 in the safe. I have 300 blackout.
Okay.
I have them with red dots. I have them with variable power glass. So scopes ranging out to like 3 to 9 power, 1 to 4 power. But more preferable to just a standard like 2 MOA red dot aim points or Trijicon MROs. But yes, I have them. I have lots of them. I love them.
So can you tell me then overall, what's the length of time that you've had any experience with the AR platform as an owner?
I bought my first AR late. So I've been a gun guy all my life. Been hunting since I was walking through snow with my dad when I was up to my knees here in New Hampshire. with an old single shot 410 that he gave me when I was about 6. Been a gun guy, more so a handgun guy for a long time. Got my first AR-15, I think, in 2009.
Very good. And so I guess, why did you choose that rifle? What do you like about it?
What I thought and what I think is so great about them, and it goes to the practicality of the gun for me and for shooters. And the reason why I bought it is because of the versatility of the platform. It's kind of like Legos, like you have pieces and they all interchange one way or another to configure the rifle to best fit your needs. Whether it's a longer handguard, whether it's a longer sight radius, whether it's a longer barrel or a shorter barrel, whether it's a different muzzle device because you want it to reduce flash or you want it to reduce muzzle rise, or it's a stock because you want the stock to be a little bit more adjustment because you have shorter arms, or you want it to be longer because you have longer arms.
Right.
Or the trigger systems, you want it to be light because you're trying to do accuracy stuff, or you want it to be heavy because you're using this for a defensive gun.
Right.
You know, the versatility of the platform goes on for days.
Okay.
And I think that's why it has such a prominent place in the market. And, you know, the accessories, you can get camo, you can get pink, you can get white, you can get tan. You know, it's literally limitless. I can't think of another platform weapon system out there. I mean, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but is as customizable and you're able to dial in to fit your unique needs more than the AR-15, period.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Mike, you can guess what questions I'm going to ask you.
Sure.
Do you own an AR-15 or some variant of that platform?
Yeah, I may have somewhere between 1 and 15 of them. I actually started out with a Ruger Mini 14 that I had for a number of years. And in 1985, a buddy of mine had a AR-15, and he let me shoot it. And I was using the Mini 14 as a work gun as well. And, you know, it was fine. But what I found with the AR-15 was that it was lighter and more accurate than the Mini 14. So I shortly, I dispensed with the Mini 14 and I picked up with a AR-15. I never looked back. And Mark is absolutely correct. So the first one I got was like in 1985. Mark is correct. It's the Lego of guns. You know, you can configure them in any way that you want to, and they're just very versatile. You can do a lot with them. I've got them in 5.56, 300 blackout, and 308 as well.
How long would you say that you've had experience with the AR-15 platform itself? How many years have you been into that?
Somebody do the math from 85 on.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. So why did you choose that rifle platform? What is it that you liked about it?
The lightweight of the weapon, and its accuracy. It was accurate, easy to run. The manual of arms was pretty simple, and the availability of magazines for it, very cheap, and the ammunition as well was extremely cheap, and it still is relatively so.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I personally enjoyed about it is the fact that ammunition is fairly plentiful and not too expensive. You know, it's a great weapon platform to take out and introduce new shooters to. So, I'll answer my own questions then. Yes, I do own several AR-15 rifles and pistols. I have quite a few lower and upper and lower receiver assemblies in various state of completion laying around as well. I initially thought that I would have a standard 16-inch AR rifle and then I added a short barrel rifle, much like Mark, and then I added a 300 Blackout purpose-built short barrel rifle, and then after Sandy Hook, when it looked like President Obama was really going to move to tighten regulations down and take the AR-15 away from the civilian populace. Like a lot of people, I purchased several of those upper and lower receiver assemblies, and I bought enough that my kids could each have one later in life if they wanted, with a few to spare. So I'm afraid to count how many of those things I've got, and I'll be honest, I'm afraid to admit to my wife how many of them I've got at this point, because I've probably got more than I told her I was ever going to buy. I think my first one was a Bushmaster XM15 E2S heavy barrel, and I bought that thing during the Clinton era, so it would have been in the 90s. I sold that not too long after I bought it, and as I began to get more into the AR-15 and learn more about it and understand how to make better decisions, and then that's when I started piecing together my first 16-inch rifle, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I had so much fun building them and shooting them, and playing with that Lego set, if you will, just became a hobby, and it never was something that occurred to me that it would ever someday be demonized. It was just a fun, modern sporting rifle, if you will, and the fact that it looked cool was appealing to me. The reason that I chose it, I was a kid of I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and action movies were all the rage, and Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger and other action movie heroes, they all carried AR-15s and things in their films. Chuck Norris in the prisoner of war type movies and things like that. The heroes all had these AR-15 style rifles, and granted, it was the militarized M16, the full auto stuff, but couldn't buy that as a civilian. So the closest you could get was something that kind of looked like it. It was just neat to have that, and I had family in the military, and it just felt like a certain kinship to the men and women that served that I idolized. So I enjoyed having it, and it was attractive to me for that reason. And the more that I got to experience the rifle and learn about it and shoot with it, it became obvious to me that, again, it was a very good platform to shoot economically. It didn't have a whole lot of recoil. It was soft shooting. I could put that thing in the hands of a family member, and they could shoot it just fine without any repercussions, no harsh recoil or shock to them. Could stick it in the hands of a person, and I have stuck in the hands of a person, took them to the range, that had physical disabilities, and you see the smile on their face that they were able to shoot something that they couldn't have shot a lever action or a bolt action gun, and it was rewarding to see people enjoy it and take some of that mystery out of it, and again, see that light bulb, kind of go off over their heads, like, oh, I get it. I understand why these things are so much fun. So that, for me, that was it. And then as I progressed through life and began to, learn more about firearms in general, I had other reasons for wanting it. Protection of my family and familiarity with a manual of arms, so to speak, of a weapon that had a lot of heritage for our military. So anyway, it's just, those were the things that drew me to it and why I've always enjoyed it.
I've got a advertisement from Colt in the 50s. I believe it's from Colt. It may have been Armalite. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to go and look at it, but I've got it in my paperwork where it was pitched to the military, and at first the military did not adopt the weapon, and they had them, and they decided to sell them on the civilian market, and they pitched the gun as a sporting rifle, as a hunting rifle, and I've got a flyer, my paperwork somewhere that I came across, and that's the way that it was initially marketed. When the military turned its back on it or did not adopt it immediately, they had these weapons, and they said, well, all right, we're going to sell them to the civilian market, and it can be used for hunting. Let me ask you guys this, right? David and Mark, have you used your ARs for hunting?
I have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had, I got one of the years ago, I had one of the daily defense ambush that was even like, it came in like Realtree camo.
Oh yeah. I remember those. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was a 6.8 special. I think that was random caliber that Daniel made it in, which was a great whitetail caliber for up here in New Hampshire and Vermont.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I, back home in Kentucky had access to a farm that we could hunt on. And after a day of deer hunting and you go back out at night and you'd wait for the coyotes to come out after the scraps from where you had cleaned deer, and you would hunt coyotes. And it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've used them here to hunt deer, hogs, and coyotes as well.
So, that kind of leads me maybe to another question that's on my list. One of the terms that frequently gets thrown around about the AR-15 in the media right now is high power, in the sense that it's a high-powered rifle and nobody needs a high-powered rifle like that. I'll be honest, every time I hear the word high or the words high power in the media right now, I just roll my eyes and I groan and I think, oh my God, you sound so stupid when you say that to anybody that knows anything about it. Yeah, Mike, I think you're the expert here, and especially as we start talking about ballistics and calibers and things like that. How high power is the AR-15 in the 5.56 or 2.23?
I'm going to touch on a couple things here. I've heard the media use that term interchangeably with magazine capacity, referring to it as high-powered because it contains a magazine that holds 30 rounds.
Interesting.
They definitely have used it in that way. As far as the round itself, it's a 22 caliber, and typically, the XM193 exits the barrel at about 3,000 feet per second, which is it's pretty fast. In most states, 22 caliber is not allowed for hunting big game, to include deer, because it's considered to be too light of a caliber to kill a deer or
it's not
any other large game.
Yeah, it's not humane, right? So that's an interesting.
Yeah, exactly. The calibers that you mentioned, the 30-06, the 270, the 308, those are what I consider to be high-powered rounds, simply because of their muzzle velocity and the foot-pounds delivered on target is a lot greater than a 5.56 out of a AR-15. Now, a well-placed shot out of a AR-15 will kill a deer or a hog, which are, I guess, they're considered a large game. A coyote is not. That's considered small game. It isn't fun to get shot with anything, but I really would not want to get shot with a 30 caliber weapon of any caliber, be it a 30-30 or a 308, 30-06, or any of the bigger ones.
I think, Mike, during the break we were talking, you said statistically, if you go look at it, according to the FBI statistics, the old 22 long rifle, the plinker that people shoot soda pop cans with and things like that has actually killed more people than any other caliber of rifle in the United States. So, I think it all just kind of depends on, where you're shot with the thing and what kind of medical care you get immediately after that. That's probably something we're going to get into in this conversation.
Yeah, we are. Mark, you want to jump in on that in regards to medical help?
Yeah, I mean, I am extremely guilty regarding not having the medical training that I probably should have. And that's something I'm really looking forward to doing a lot of this summer as it comes around more. But we talked offline a little bit regarding the, like, for instance, in the military, it's like the priority is self-aid, then buddy aid. Mike made a good point regarding the caliber, that its intended purpose was to wound, not to kill, because the wound would potentially take two guys out rather than one or even three, because they need to, help their buddy to safety and provide medical aid. And,
so hang on a sec. You're saying that the military chose the 5.56 round, a 22 caliber round for all intents and purposes, with just a little bit more powder behind it. They chose that not with the intent to kill the enemy, but to incapacitate, so that other soldiers would have to then exit the fight and care for that person.
They chose that caliber for two reasons: to increase magazine capacity,
okay,
and reduce weight. And a byproduct that they found was that it tended to wound more than kill, which forced one or two more soldiers to have to assist their wounded comrade right back to safety. So in essence, they killed three birds with one stone.
Yeah, they took three people out of the fight by injuring one.
Yes.
So this goes contrary to everything that we hear on the news right now from politicians that have absolutely no experience with this weapon or this ammo. And again, Dianne Feinstein, it's easy to find her on the media, on the news, talking about how this projectile, this 5.56 cartridge, is capable of just all this mass devastation every single time it hits a person. And yet the United States military looked at it and thought, it's not the best, but it has a fringe benefit that if it just wounds the guy and doesn't necessarily kill him, then that's more detrimental to the enemy's cause than if I kill a guy.
It was a benefit that was discovered. So, that's just the fact. If you shoot somebody with a 30 caliber, they are more apt to die.
Right. And the 30 caliber was our nation's primary battle cartridge all the way through the Korean War, right? So I mean, the M16, the military distant relative of the civilian AR15, it's a 5.56. It's the 22 caliber. The Vietnam War is as far as I know the first time that the M16 came into major play in the United States Army Manual of Arms, right? Before that, it was the M1.
Absolutely, that's correct. It phased out the M14.
Interesting.
Which was a 308 caliber.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, it's like, as you start to peel back the layers of the onion, you start to see that there's been a lot of misrepresentation about the AR and its military relative. So it's interesting as you learn through it. I did some digging on the internet to look up statistics, and so the AR-15 and its military relative, the M4, use a 5.56 by 45 millimeter NATO cartridge, or the .223 Remington domestic cartridge, and they're slightly different, but generally interchangeable in certain rifles as long as the chamber is sized to accommodate them. Bullet weights are generally measured in grains, and so the 5.56 uses a 62 grain standard projectile, and it looks like out of a 16.5-inch long barrel, that's generally capable of generating about 2,900 feet per second muzzle velocity. The 308 Springfield, the common hunting cartridge that we were talking about a little bit earlier, in comparison, is a 125 to 130 grain projectile, so roughly twice the weight bullet, twice the amount of lead and copper there, and it exits the barrel at about 3,200 feet per second average. And that was across about 6 different manufacturers of ammunition. I looked at Federal, Hogden, Spear, Hornady, Nosler, Barnes, a couple of others, and some reloading manuals just to try to do my due diligence and see how do these two really stack up against each other. So a common hunting rifle cartridge that you can go to Walmart and buy, and nobody bats an eye at it, and nobody looks at you and says, oh, you've got one of those evil hunting rifles. It's twice the weight bullet, larger diameter projectile, with a little bit faster muzzle velocity coming out of a rifle that nobody gives a rip about, compared to the smaller, lighter 5.56 or 223 round that is just the subject of intense public scorn right now. And that makes pretty much no sense to me when I think about it. If I was going to choose one to actually go hurt some people with and do some damage, I'm going to go with the bigger caliber.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's why our sniper rifles are generally in the 30 caliber family. The proof is in the pudding there. If the 5.56 was a outstanding round to snipe with, we'd be using it, and we're not.
Right.
In that role.
Well, it's easy to shoot, right? And so what I found is that because it's so easy to shoot, many female shooters prefer it for hunting or for target shooting or for home defense, because it has very little power and very little recoil compared to a lot of others. Anecdotally, I've always heard, even Joe Biden, if you want to defend your house, go get a shotgun, get a 12-gauge shotgun. Just the sound of that thing racking and chambering around is going to make your home invader wet his pants and run away until you actually have to shoot it. And, I'm a pretty big guy, and I can tell you that, you kind of pull in a 12-gauge shotgun and you hold on because it's got some kick to it. And my wife flat does not like shooting the 12-gauge shotgun. It kicks. It hurts. It'll bruise her. The 5.56, the AR-15 rifles that I've got, man, she'll shoot that thing into the point that I'm flat broke from ammo expense, right? It just doesn't do that to her. So, compared to most hunting rifles and 12-gauge shotguns, the AR-15 is a baby.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And it's funny when you put it in the hands of a novice shooter, their expectations are quickly diminished. They're wow, like you can see it on their face almost every time. This is not what I was expecting at all. This is not as powerful and as scary as some of those news media people at the range shooting the AR-15 and dropping it and crying. Those guys.
Yeah. What was the full semi-auto guy that, what was he? He was a general or something, wasn't he?
Full semi-auto.
He was an embarrassment to the military. He was an embarrassment to me as a man when I watched that news footage. But, in the classes that you teach, how often have you put a novice shooter behind an AR-15 and seen, the light come on for them and them suddenly understand like that?
Yeah, I've certainly had individuals that have showed up at a class or either to take the class or to spectate, and on a break asked to shoot a AR-15, and after they shoot it the first time, as Mark said earlier, they kind of turn around and look at you and say, God, that was nothing. That wasn't what I expected. And actually had a lady who came to a class to watch her husband. She totally was there as a spectator, and it was a carbine class. And by the halfway through the first day, she approached me and said, could I try that? I said, sure. So on one of the breaks, I got her out there and loaded up a magazine out of her husband's gun and coached her through the manipulations. And after she got done with it, she said, have you got room for me in this class? Because, he's got another one in the truck and I can use that. I'd like to take the class and shoot it. And she had never shot a gun before. So wow. It is something that is easy to shoot. It's enjoyable to shoot. It's not painful to shoot those guns. And that's why they are extremely popular. One of the reasons why they are.
Let me ask a question. Do you find that the average female shooter, and let me just go ahead and also include anybody who has difficulty perhaps manipulating a handgun. It could be because, they just slight build, not very physical. They don't possess a lot of physical strength, or it could be that they have a disability or a disadvantage of some sort. Do you find that those people are able to accurately use an AR rifle or even an AR pistol more so than they could, I don't know, 38 caliber revolver or a 9mm handgun?
Yeah, that's true across the board of anybody. No matter how big they are or
Okay.
how small they are. With a handgun, at best, you've got 1.5 points of contact on that weapon. On a long gun, you've got 4 points of contact. You've got a shoulder weld, a cheek weld, shooting hand weld, and a fore-end weld. So any long gun is going to be easier for anybody to shoot more accurately, which is the advantage to a long gun for home defense.
Well, I guess let's be honest. If we're in a bad situation at home, or in a bad situation, and you're a law enforcement officer responding to that, and there are other people around, I want you to be more accurate. I want you to be as accurate as possible with whatever firearm you're using to deal with that bad guy. And so I'm going to say that if you're responding to a home invasion, or a hostage situation, or an active shooter, or whatever, and you're the law enforcement officer, or you're the civilian that is in that moment, in that time, on the right place, the right time to deal with that situation, I want you to be as accurate as possible, because I don't want collateral damage, right? It could be me on the other side. You're saying a long gun's more accurate. My experience says that you're right. I want you to have a rifle.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. When I went to the State Police Academy, I can remember our head firearms instructor at the time, Lieutenant Galvin, saying, flat out telling us, if you know that you are going into a gunfight, grab your shotgun, have a long gun in your hands, right, and not your revolver. And no truer words have been spoken by anybody.
Right.
It's absolutely right.
Were those black powder revolvers, Mike?
Powder.
They were percussion caps. Yeah.
No, it reminds me of the old saying, the purpose of a handgun is to fight your way to a long gun.
Yeah. We're far enough into the episode now that we've gotten comfortable. We're gonna make age jokes, aren't we? We're gonna pick it.
Mike and I go back a little ways.
Yeah, we do. He's going to pay for that too.
Right. Well, I'm now going back to your resume in my mind, and I feel like I'm relatively safe a couple thousand miles away. That I can, I'm still not going to do it. I got too much respect.
I can find anybody.
That's right. Well, I feel like we're not even scratching the surface of this thing yet, and I think, true to my prediction, I feel like we've got enough material here that we're going to end up with 2 episodes worth of this recording for the audience. And rather than try to rush it and not do justice to the situation, let me ask, can I impose on you gentlemen to stick with me for a bit longer this evening, and we'll just keep talking through it, thoroughly. But that might mean that we have to split this up into 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
On behalf of my co-host, Mark Lancaster, and our special guest, Mike Sisno, I want to thank you for listening. I also want to invite you back to our next episode when we conclude this particular conversation about the AR-15 and why, yes, as a civilian, you really do need one. If you would like to contact us after the show, here's how you can do it. If you're interested in taking one of Mike Sisino's classes, or hosting Mike for a class at your own local range to cover things like the AR-15, defensive pistol, defensive carbine, or any combination of those, you can email him at pointman612@gmail.com. As always, the best way to reach Mark Lancaster after the show is to send email to info@squaredawaycustoms.com. And if you're in the market for a better holster for your handgun, or if you need quality Kydex gear to carry your AR-15 magazines, head over to squaredawaycustoms.com and be sure to use coupon code ShootersNation for a discount. Again, that coupon code is ShootersNation, all one word. You can also always contact us and find the latest information and episodes on our own website, shootersnation.com. That's where you'll also find a link to our web store where you can buy awesome swag sporting the Shooters Nation logo. Shooters Nation hats and shirts are a great way to spread the word and trigger gun-grabbing hippies at the grocery store. While you're there, be sure to sign up for our Shooters Nation Mail Blast newsletter, or you can just visit shootersnation.com/mailblast and add yourself to the newsletter that way. And last but not least, if you've enjoyed this show and want to help make future episodes possible, you can visit shootersnation.com/donate and support the show for as little as $5 per month. Every dollar you donate helps us pay the bills, keep the lights on, and deliver fresh new episodes of the podcast straight to your ear holes each month. Again, we hope that you've enjoyed listening, and we hope that you'll tune into the next episode for the conclusion of our chat with Mike Sisno. But until then, be safe.
The preceding segment was a production of the Shooters Nation podcast. Visit us online at shootersnation.com.